Well, hello from the 2025 Genesis GV80 Coupe. You're getting another on the way to the gym review from me because I didn't have time to do the whole thing with a tripod and a big camera because I was out of town for our Midwest Grocery Run Road Rally. But I have this 2025 GV80 Coupe with me, and Genesis says that this is going to be a little more athletic and sporting than the regular GV80, which I don't really agree with necessarily, but it is a good looking car and I want to talk all about it, so let's just get right into it. The coupe SUV thing is a thing that started, I believe, with BMW in the X6, I think. There is this desire, as everyone seems to want just one vehicle to do it all because of a variety of socioeconomic reasons, that not everything that is crossover-y or SUV-ish has to be a boxy sort of design. So what do? You chop the rear end, you take away some cargo space and some rear headroom, and you call it a coupe, even though to me a coupe has two doors. But we are well past that for the sake of what is a coupe and what do words mean, and it's all made up. Anyway, this I think is actually a pretty good design. It is perhaps one of the more effective coupe booty chops that I've seen that looks pretty cohesive. So that I'm actually pretty pleased with. And Genesis did do some visual updates to every GV80 for the 2025 model year. So they've got slightly redone bumpers and front end treatments. You do get some updates with the interior here. Notably, you've got a single 27-inch display that covers the driver gauge cluster and the infotainment system. And that does still have wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto on top of the built-in Genesis system. You've got a new steering wheel on the car. It's a 3-spoke steering wheel design. And in this case, on the coupe, it's going to be D-shaped for sportiness. So that's that. They also updated some of the central controls here. There's plenty of physical controls, although many of them are going to be touch and kind of haptic-y. It's actually pretty easy to use. And this is, I think, a decent implementation of physical controls versus touch. I'm pretty happy with all of that. So front interior space, front interior cabin vibes are going to be pretty nice in general. This one being a fully loaded model, it's got ventilated and massaging front seats. The center armrest here is heated when the heated seats are on. You've got a panoramic sunroof. You've got a Bang & Olufsen sound system that replaces the outgoing Lexicon system. I do think it sounds pretty good, although I've had a weird issue where it keeps turning down the maximum volume allowed by CarPlay. You can change that in the Genesis infotainment settings, and it will go back to what you want it to when you change it, but it limits the output of the system for no reason. So once you fix it, it sounds really, really good. Anyway, with all of the sportingness that Genesis says you get with the GV80 Coupe, what is powering this thing? Well, they have pulled in their 48-volt e-supercharger setup from the G90. That's where we first saw that. And what it is the 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 that you get in many other Genesis products with a 48-volt mild hybrid system added to it. Now, they're saying it adds some power and torque, and it does. The total output of the system is 409 horsepower, 405 pound-feet of torque. But what the e-supercharger setup is going to do, what all of these mild hybrid setups do, is basically fill in turbo lag and any sort of torque gaps that you might find in the system when you're accelerating. So you don't really feel it outright, but it's nice to have, and you kind of get this just shove and swell of torque as you really lay into it, which we're not doing here in Northwest DC and Logan Circle. But I have done it, and it does feel really good. The drivetrain in this is lovely. This is paired to an 8-speed torque converter automatic, and then it's a rear biased all-wheel drive system. All of these are going to be all-wheel drive. You also get a limited slip rear differential. So in theory, this has, pretty good grip, pretty good ability to portion power around where you want it to go. And then you've also got a road preview suspension, so it's going to be adaptive dampers. There's no air ride on this car, but adaptive dampers on all 4 corners and a camera that looks forward and adjusts the damping regardless of your drive mode setting. It adjusts the damping based on what it sees ahead of you. So if it sees a pothole, if it sees a speed bump, something like that, it's going to adjust the dampers to give you the best ride that it can. Now, that's only going to do so much because this car, being the fully loaded one, has 22-inch wheels with itty-bitty tires on them. So you know, ride quality, if we're going for super luxe, ride quality is largely impacted by wheels and tires. A lot of a car review in general is wheels and tires. And I think this car would be better with the 20s that you can get it with. So let's talk about what this thing is and isn't. So Genesis is saying the coupe is the sportier GV80 versus the regular SUV GV80. And this car doesn't really have that vibe to it. I hate to say it. The GV80 is just delightfully nice. It is quiet in here. It is well insulated. It is, Car and Driver tested this, it is quieter at 70 miles an hour than a Bentley Bentayga. Or it was, a 2017 Bentayga, but regardless, it's quiet. And it rides really nicely, and the drivetrain is unobtrusive. And, you know, Genesis has attempted to pump in some engine noise through the speakers. They've attempted to make this thing sportier with different, you know, the wheels and tires, the dampers. There's a Sport Plus drive mode that changes how the all-wheel drive responds. And like, that's just not what this thing is here to do. You know, if they want to do a super sporty model, then great. But this to me is still just pleasant first, luxury first, quiet and comfortable first. I think I would like it more with smaller wheels, because it does do a nice job-ish soaking up bumps and riding well enough, but it would be far better with a 20-inch wheel and a small sidewall. You don't need the extra wheels to clear bigger brakes. They give you a 4-piston brake up front, but that's not so big that you need a 22 to clear the brakes. So, you know, in that regard, I still think it's luxury first, and it really delivers on that. I mean, the seats are fabulous. The driving position is great for tall people. Like I said, it's quiet. The drivetrain is really, really good. The calibration of all the controls, how it feels to accelerate, hit the brake pedal, use the steering, all of that is well sorted, but luxury first. You know, it's not going to give you the most feedback through the wheel or anything like that, but that's not the mission of this car. So all that said, the coupe does not necessarily do a whole lot to make it feel sportier. And then hopping in the back seat here, you're going to lose a little bit of headroom having this coupe roofline. If you're tall like me, I'm a lot of torso, this is going to feel a little uncomfortable. My head is going to be more in the roof than it would be if I was in a regular GV80. That's not to say I'm uncomfortable here. There's plenty of room. I've got pretty good leg room, just my head, and keep in mind I have big hair right now. My head is just a little tighter up here than it would be otherwise. You also lose a little bit of cargo space in the back behind the second row, or obviously with the second row folded. You're just gonna get a little bit less space given, again, that chopped roof line. So you can't stack, you know, suitcases or something as high up as you normally would, but that's kind of implied with any of these coupe body designs. Now, a couple things. Given this car does seat 4 or 5 people, I did put a couple friends in here last night and asked them. They are not car people in the slightest. I asked them what their thoughts were on this interior and how comfortable it was, notably in the back seat. So they both sat back there and I played chauffeur. They liked it quite a bit. They were really fascinated by the large display. They thought that was nicely done and it looked good on the dashboard. They were also really into the idea of the control knob for the infotainment system. They thought that that seemed like a more luxurious experience compared to touching the touchscreen, which I thought was very fascinating. And then they also thought it was a very luxury experience to have a shift dial versus a shift lever, although they lamented the fact that you cannot look cool and drape your hand over the shifter and have your wrist hanging out like this. So just kind of interesting tidbits. And then they said the back seat was very comfortable. They had plenty of space. They also really appreciated the fact that I could move the passenger seat with the controls right here on the side. That's a very chauffeur thing. It's in a lot of the different Korean cars that we get these days. I think it's a nice little touch. But just some fun little feedback from Andrew and Michael. So thank you, boys, for contributing to this one. But yeah, in general, this is a lovely car. I don't think I really find it especially sporty, but compared to something like a Mercedes GLE or a BMW X6, I do think it is a more interesting option. Now, normally I would say Genesis is more interesting and a little more affordable to me. They are definitely a value leader within the luxury space. They give you a ton of features for the money. This one is like 86 grand, and that is where I'm just not so sure about all this, because despite me liking the looks of the GV80 Coupe, I also take a little issue that this is priced higher than that of a regular GV80. If I have to have a utility vehicle, I want it to be as utilitarian as possible, so the coupe body style doesn't do a whole lot for me. And then on top of it not being especially sporty to drive compared to the regular one, they're both, you know, athletic enough, but it's not anything extra. I think I would just rather have this as a regular GV80. So there you go. If you like the coupe body style, this is still going to be a really fantastic option for you. It's just going to be a little more expensive than a regular GV80. If you're not sold on the coupe body style and you're saying, well, what about a regular GV80? It's probably going to be very much like this, just with a little more headroom, a little more backseat room, and, you know, a little more cargo space. So there you go. That is it for this review of the 2025 Genesis GV80 Coupe. Thank you for following along, watching, and supporting everything. Really, really appreciate it. Till next time, stay safe, be well. See you for the next one.